Jim Carrey was not the first choice to play The Mask, and some of the names that were floated before him are pretty frickin' wild. The Mask hit theaters 30 years ago today, so here are some things I bet you never knew about it. For example, did you know that The Mask is a comic book movie? Comic creator Mike Richardson first conceived of the character in 1982, and would later bring him to life with his publishing company Dark Horse Comics. Richardson then brought the character to Hollywood in 1989, and approached New Line Cinema about doing a dark horror film based on the character. One version of that film would have been about a mask maker who took the faces off corpses and put them on teenagers to turn them into zombies. This was the time of peak teen slasher movies, and New Line saw the potential to turn that into a new horror franchise. So they hired Chuck Russell to direct. He'd previously made The Third Nightmare on Elm Street and The Blob. Ironically, Russell found the source material to be too violent and off-putting, so he decided to redevelop the movie as a comedy. Russell then hired Mike Werb to pen the script, after reading Werb's screenplay for a Curious George movie. Russell and Werb then pushed the movie towards being a wild romantic comedy. Werb wrote the movie in 6 weeks, and New Line gave it a green light 2 months later. Early on, Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, Martin Short, Nicolas Cage, Matthew Broderick, and Robin Williams were all considered for the lead role. But New Line exec Mike DeLuca and Chuck Russell were eyeing Jim Carrey, after seeing him on In Living Color. Carrey was paid $450,000 for the role, a relative bargain for New Line considering how much the movie would go on to make. Russell initially wanted Anna Nicole Smith to play Tina, but she was committed to Naked Gun 33 1/3. So casting director Fern Champion was looking at different models to play the part, and a friend of hers who worked in the same office building at a modeling agency suggested one of their new clients, Cameron Diaz. Diaz had never acted in a movie before and had to go through 12 auditions, but finally landed the role a week before shooting began. Warren Beatty, John Hurd, Richard Gere, Tim Allen, and Pierce Brosnan were all considered for the role of Lieutenant Mitch Kellaway, which ended up going to Peter Riegert. Jack Nicholson, Willem Dafoe, Dennis Hopper, and Robert De Niro were wanted for Dorian, which went to Peter Green. New Line gave the movie a production budget of $23 million. The Mask was done with a mix of makeup and CGI, and Carrey's makeup sessions for The Mask often took 4 hours. The big fake teeth that he wore were intentionally going to be just for scenes without dialogue, but Carrey instead learned to talk with them in his mouth to make the character even more wacky. The Mask's catchphrase, "smokin'," was improvised by Carrey on set. The actor actually came down with the flu during filming and was literally throwing up in his trailer one day, but still pushed through to be on set. Carrey would often make Cameron Diaz crack up when filming, and you can see her nearly breaking throughout the movie. Diaz did not do her own singing in the film. She was dubbed by voice actor Susan Boyd. The interior of the garage where Stanley brings his car for repairs is the vacant Los Angeles firehouse where they shot Ghostbusters. ILM and DreamQuest Images did the visual effects for the film, and Russell provided ILM with a lot of rehearsal footage of Jim Carrey so that they could more accurately animate the CGI off of his face. But because Carrey was such an elastic actor, New Line actually saved money on visual effects. As Russell told the Chicago Tribune, the guys at ILM said they figured I saved about $1 million once I got Jim, just on what he was able to do versus what we intended to do originally. The producers really disliked the Cuban Pete musical number and wanted to cut it from the film because they thought it was too long and not funny. But test audiences loved it so much, so Russell kept it in. The Mask hit theaters on July 29th, 1994, and it made $23 million opening weekend, matching its production budget, before going on to do a pretty big $351.6 million worldwide total. This made it the most profitable comic book movie of all time, a title it held until 2019 when Joker surpassed it. This was Jim Carrey's second of 3 major successes in 1994, the movies that launched him into superstardom, the others being Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber. And The Mask was actually the most successful financially and critically of the 3. Critics were very positive on the movie. Today, 80% of the 55 reviews assessed by Rotten Tomatoes are positive. The Mask was nominated for 1 Oscar, Best Visual Effects, but it lost to Forrest Gump. And Carrey himself got a Golden Globe nomination and a Razzie nomination. The Mask would become the most rented VHS in the UK in 1995, with 3.8 million rentals. The film's use of swing music is credited with influencing the swing revival in the 1990s. The movie spawned an animated series that ran for 54 episodes on CBS from 1995 to 1997, and its final episode crossed over with the Ace Ventura animated series. Also, fun fact, Dumb and Dumber got an animated series as well. There was a Super Nintendo game based on The Mask, and there was supposed to be a sequel starring Jim Carrey in the years that followed. In 1995, Nintendo Power Magazine even held a contest to win a walk-on role in the sequel, but but then Jim Carrey decided not to return, and so Nintendo Power had to give the winner a cash prize instead. A standalone sequel film, Son of Mask, would eventually happen in 2005, without Jim Carrey or Cameron Diaz. It starred Jamie Kennedy and Alan Cumming. It was a failure, making just $60 million off a $100 million production budget. In 2014, original comic creator Mike Richardson said they were considering rebooting The Mask both for film and comics, but nothing substantial came of it. That said, The Mask can be seen in the crowd in 2021's Space Jam: New Legacy.